All right. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Wherever you are, it is a pleasure to have your company for a provocative title, a title specifically that'll make sense in this video why this title has been chosen specifically because language and meaning is a big part of what we're about to get into. That is, confidence isn't something you have, it is something you manufacture. Okay, confidence isn't something you just somehow uh, build up, something you extract. You have to kind of manufacture it into situations. And I've had to learn a framework to repeatedly manufacture confidence and develop a system that ensures that more often than not, when I'm looking to perform, that I can extract the right state to be confident, to get the best out of myself for that performance. Now, all of it sounds counterintuitive because we should be born with confidence. We should just some people are just internally confident. They have it all. They just know what they're doing. But the unfortunate truth is the many successful people I've met, athletes, performers, creators, high performance business people, they all have rituals. And why do they have rituals? Because most people try to perform their way into confidence. High performers seem to do the opposite. They enter the right state, frame of mind first, then they can access the best performance possible. You know, sometimes confidence is just borrowed identity, and you have to get the state of someone or some idea that you can access or have a frame in your mind that you can pull out when you need. And it was a game changer for me to have to be able to learn it. You know, to be able to learn that I can use this consistently when I require to be in the right state to give the best, get the best out of me. Because if it's up to serendipity, oh, I'm just gonna nail it. It's just gonna happen. You know, I've done enough reps. I'm confident enough. It's just gonna come out. Seems to be a house of cards strategy that I don't think you can unfortunately rely on when you are someone who is a high stakes performer. Now, my name is Jasky. I'm Australia's #1 street interviewer with the title Mr. Sick Cunt, and hence the title for this video, because I have tried to use that as an identity that I can step into as a performer, that performance identity that athletes activate. And it has allowed me to generate nearly 1 billion views online. And I have used that in different states of performance across stand up, across business, in cold calling, and also in large scale speeches and performances done in front of large audiences. So I'm going to try and give you what I have kind of learned into one simple framework because it is essentially a repeatable process that if I do it in the right way, do it often enough, do it in the right format, more often than not, I have the best foundation to achieve the outcomes I achieve. And leaving it up to the serendipitous moments that the stars align and the you can skip through the wheat fields and it's all beautiful and rosy. And today it's gonna unfortunately quite a shit strategy. Okay. So let's get into it. I'm gonna bring up this other screen here. No, that's not what I want. There. So I can draw a little bit out, right? This is kind of what we're trying to achieve here. This is uh, one of the books I read, which refers to this as your civilian self. This is you, a person who is cautious, polite, self conscious, you know, worried about judgment, all of the above. What we want to try and achieve is to have certain steps we can take here to, let's see how well I can pull this one off. To become this, hey, just lost half of my abdomen. To become this ultra jacked, I don't know why he has such a unbelievably odd chest. Become this ultra jacked hero, performer, confident, and as I like to call it, the sick cunt version of yourself, which is someone who is decisive, confident, assertive, mission focused, and it is accessing this superhero on demand. How do we get from the civilian to the superhero to try and get the outcome we want, to make it more likely that we can get the outcome we want? And some of the greatest performers do just this, which is where I got the idea. Can I just bring myself into that moment? Can I just transform into uh, that performer self, that identity that I can kind of create clearly in my mind, and can I just step into it? Can I just step into becoming? Can I just take off the glasses and the shirt, and then Superman just appears and Clark Kent is gone? Can I just do that? And I started to realize that that is what some of these greatest performers, elite performers, do. Kobe Bryant had Black Mamba. It was this identity that he could access when he wanted to be that fearsome, uh, just ruthless, determined performer. Someone who was it's a determined athlete in his case. Beyonce had her identity as Sasha Fierce. Fierce. The the language in that is already the outcome that she's trying to achieve. And so many others, Eminem, Marshall Mathers, and whatever. You can see all the superheroes. They're the civilian self, and then they become that hero performer. So they kind of access that identity when they want. Now, how do you get to access that identity? Well, there is a well. This is the framework that I've always tried to use, and it's been super helpful to try and get as close to the persona that you want, and it only gets there if that persona is clear. So, first and foremost, the thing to know is skill is probably less important than is your state. Okay? Performance is not determined by skill, but more so by state. Okay, I'll repeat that. Performance is not necessarily determined by skill, but more so by state. And what that means is you could be the most skillful, talented, gifted human being on the face of this earth. You could essentially be the greatest superhuman, the greatest sick cunt to have ever walked this planet and have incredible amounts of skill to do the highest stakes negotiation on the planet. But unfortunately, if you're a little bit in a bit of a slump, you're just not feeling it, there's a little bit of negativity in your mind, your focus is slightly off, you just don't have the right energy, you're just not as sharp in the moment, you're kind of using language that is not ideal to achieve the circumstances you want to achieve. It doesn't matter how skillful you are. The person that may be marginally less, sorry, it doesn't matter how skillful you are, but a person who is a little bit less skillful than the greatest skilled person, but has the right state for that moment, is likely to outperform. And I've seen it in myself many, many times. If I can be in the right state, if I can have the right energy, show up as the the sick cut version of myself, if I can transform into the superhero, it is much more likely I'm going to get to achieve the goals as possible because this identity. Oh, geez, what the fuck did I just do? Here. Because this identity here is curated to get as close to the comedic interviewer as I can. So when I'm trying to access that outcome of making the funniest, most memorable comedic interviews with strangers, I have curated the superhero to have the identity, the mannerisms, and all of that. I'm going to try and go through to get the outcome, to make the outcome as likely as possible. I think I've repeated that to death. I think you get it. Okay, I think you get it. So let's push on through. Okay, first and foremost, and this is probably something that everybody knows because Tony Robbins and the NLP community and all of the pickup artists of the world, if that is ever you've ventured into that world to any extent at all, or you've logged into your Instagram and somehow happened to embark on some self-help advice, you know what I'm going to talk about, right? How do you access the right state, right? So the 3 steps that I use, that everyone talks about, and I'm sure it is no rocket science here, is to access the right state is number 1, physiology. Let me bring this screen back up. I'm going to write it down. Okay, to get into the right state, number 1 is physiology. What I try to tell myself is a phrase that I'm certain is a Tony Robbins phase, is emotion follows motion. Right? I'm sure you can Google it. You can figure out where it comes from, but I'm certain it's a Tony Robbins coined terminology, and it's amazing because every time you want to get to a certain emotion, if you have the emotion preempting the emotion you want to achieve, it is more likely that emotion will let you achieve that emotion. So I want to be some high energy, hey, let's go, like that kind of guy. Like just doing that, there's my emotion. I am now high energy because I just gave it that emotion that makes me a raging crack addict right now. Like, but that is it. I give myself, whoa, clap, come on. And now you have that emotion. Now I'm filled with energy right now. Okay, that transformed within a few seconds. If I can give myself the posture, the breathing, the facial motions, the movement, and if it directly changes your nervous system to now be okay, I'm going to calm down because I'm going to get so fired. I'm going to smash the mic, like headbutt the mic directly. But you get the point. If you can use motion, use your body, if you're feeling low, change your posture, stand up straight, do some deep breathing, clap, use some energy, bring the energy in, and you can change the emotion you feel. Now, I'm not going for that high energy, just wild, these kind of like salespeople you see on the internet that look like they've had way too much cocaine and they are just on a tear that they are going to literally rip you to shreds unless you buy their, strange retreat where they have 18 other guys and they're just going to caress each other until they just say you are the greatest salespeople on earth. Like if I don't, that energy is not the energy I'm going for, right? And that's going to freak out the majority of people that I interact with. Okay, but you can access it, as you've seen. Emotion follows motion. If you can give your body some motion, the mind-body connection is if your body does something, your mind responds to the motion of your body, right? Now, I want to get into a more of a calm, relaxed, open, a state where I am allowing everything to happen, to kind of bring myself as close to presence where I'm not overpowering the person I'm going to meet. It's a different level of emotion. It's me doing a lot of deep breathing prior to going into my performance before I start to do, if I'm talking about the interviews, I have to really try and get myself into a calm, but listening, attentive state, which all comes from deep breathing, which all comes from having uh, no stimulation, right? And I want my body to feel like I am there in the moment. Meditation, all of that stuff, right? You get it. It's not rocket science. I'm not telling you anything you probably don't know, right? Physiology, right? If you can move in a way to get to the emotion you want to get, it is just way more likely you will pattern interrupt what you're already in. Let me bring up this screen again. Now, what's amazing about this is you can interrupt your current pattern. And that's what helps me multifold is when I'm in a situation and I'm like, I just don't fucking feel it today. I don't feel it. I'm not feeling like I want to be doing this thing, giving this speech in front of whatever, 100 people and have to like motivate them or whatever. Not that that ever happens. I don't even know why I use an example that doesn't exist. I have to entertain these bunch of people, right? I don't feel like it. You can do a very quick reset, a very quick interruption. You start to get incredibly nervous before a thing happens, which is very, very common. Everybody gets incredibly nervous. You can interrupt and change your state. You're about to go into an interview. You're about to have a very uncomfortable meeting with your employer. You're about to have a tense interaction with your partner. Whatever the interaction may be, whatever the situation may be, you are feeling something that is not the right state you want to be feeling for that situation. You can change it. You can interrupt it. Okay? Now, you can interrupt it by the steps in the physiology that we mentioned, but let me list them for you. Posture, breathing through the nose, deep breathing. Sound like I'm going into that retreat where we're going to caress each other, but you get the point. Breathing, exhaling through the mouth, the usual, right? You bring your shoulders back. That's it. Feels shoulders hunched in, nerves, shoulders back, more confident. Body language. Your eye gaze. Looking down feels more shy, nervous, contemplative, a little bit more hesitant. Looking up, more, expansive, generally assertive, more confident, powerful, whatever, right? And then fucking move, right? Move. You move for a minute, move for whatever, how much time you have. Move. All of this very likely to get your brain to follow the emotional state that you are trying to get it to achieve, right? And you're about to walk into a meeting. You're not feeling it. Here's an interrupt protocol. Do some of these things, and you are more likely to be in a state where you are going to get the best out of yourself. Okay? Now, number 2. Why did I just change that? Let's go back to that screen. I'll just do it here. Number 2 is your focus. Number 2 is your focus. Focus is about switching from, typically we are feeling a level of, I'm going to have judgment. I'm going to feel targeted. And all the nerves and anxiety come from a level of self-protection. And if you can switch that frame of mind to contribution, gratefulness, to expansiveness, doing something larger than just something to do with yourself, it typically changes your state to a more positive state, which is generally closer to where you want to be to get to this, the superhero, right? Focus. Because if your focus is on bullshit, you are typically going to be focusing on bullshit, right? Nothing, no rocket science there. If you're focusing on, oh, this is going to go so bad, I'm going to walk in the room, and then, oh, he's just going to grill me, and then I don't know what to say. I'm not very good at this kind of stuff, and then, oh, I'm going to have to like conjure up this answer, and I get so nervous, and I'm going to leave. All of that stuff. You know, if you're focusing on your on risk and judgment, embarrassment, rejection, but you switch to typically curiosity, opportunity, impact, and how awesome this chance actually is, which again is opportunity, but like how amazing this is. It completely, like, I'll give you an example. We travel to a new location many times, right? And let me say that again. I'll give you an example. When we travel to a new location to film, it's very different to many other creators. We don't have scripting. We don't have some detailed production schedule that I can pre-plan and go, okay, day one, we're gonna do this, and then sorry, we kind of know what we're doing, but we don't know it's gonna pan out like this, and then the sets are gonna change, and then we're gonna end up at this location, and here's my script for this, and then we got to set up this part of the stage, and it's none of that. We are entering a new location with certain, generally very minimal planning in mind that would possibly scare the shit out of most people, including ourselves. It used to scare the fuck out of us that we are entering a completely unknown location. We have no idea the types of people we're going to meet. We have no idea what is going to take place. We have virtually no control over the type of content, conversations, outcomes. We don't know any. We're not in control of any of it. It is not structured. There's virtually no scaffolding, very minimal scaffolding, and we have to try within a certain time frame, because we're only there for a certain period. We can't just stay there. We have families. We have other tasks. We have other jobs to get to. We only have a certain time frame that we're together, and we have to produce something loosely based on this theme that we are going with. And all of the negativity starts to roll through. It affects your state. You're like, my God, how are we going to do this? This is like so difficult. Where do we even start? Will I be able to even like make stuff funny? Am I going to be able to approach people and get them to speak to me? And am I going to be able to get those like moments we've had before? Like, oh, I don't know, this place is a little bit different. I don't know any of these streets. I don't know how this is. All of that focus changes your state. And then the motion changes your physiology. And then the physiology worsens your state. It's like a cycle of constant diminishing of your state to get further and further away from where you want to be to get the ideal outcome, to get the best performance out of you. So typically when I get to the place, before I begin, the thing that makes a humongous difference is honestly to sit there for a second and go, how unbelievably lucky am I that we get to come up with one of the dumbest ideas, something so ridiculous that no one in their right frame of mind would even consider doing. And we get to travel together as mates, and we get to come here together and literally have fun speaking to people, coming up with ridiculous scenarios, and on top of that, get to uncover incredible stories, incredible people and showcase these amazing ideas, amazing people, and just a, a, a perspective and a narrative that no one else is going to be able to do in the way that we do it. How incredibly lucky, honored are we that we can do this and somehow we get paid to do it? And the moment, and also the fact that you can then leverage it a little bit, you can aid it a little bit to make it even better by saying, on top of that, how amazing is it that it impacts people positively to be getting seen, heard, supported, and at times changing people's lives by the fact that they get opportunities that they never thought they could get, but except for being on the channel. All of that, your state now is just incredibly positive and incredibly charged up. And now it changes again your physiology. Now you start to feel this positive emotion. You start to feel your shoulders go back and you're now standing straighter. Your breathing is better. You're just energetic. And now you're close to that superhero performer that you wanted to get to. So the switch in focus can be so incredibly powerful that anytime I do it, I can access the absolute best out of me in any situation where my words are used to do any level of performance, because the nerves are guaranteed to come in. The negativity is guaranteed to come in. And if you can switch your focus, it can make a humongous difference to the output that we can create. And if I do it amongst a bad state, the outcome I have seen is always subpar. But if I can spend the adequate time to get the state right, the whatever emotion follows motion, do the motion, repeat the same thing, do all of that, get your focus towards curiosity, opportunity, gratefulness, impact, all of that, away from self-protection, but more to contribution. And you are now setting yourself up for a greater likelihood of greater success. Let's bring this page back up. Number 3 on, I didn't even write anything below this, but you kind of get it. So number 3 is language. Hence why I said in the title, I'm using the language for a reason. It is to change your state. Right? By you reading this title and seeing the words sick cunt in there, it is hopefully gets you in the right. What? Being a sick cunt, it's way more invigorating and an interruption to your current state than just putting becoming the best version of yourself. I don't know, whatever other alternative title I could have gone with, right? And now with language and meaning, one of the things that's really important here is to stress that the same circumstance that goes through the filter of two people's minds is interpreted completely differently. Now let me reword that. So two people can experience the same situation and feel completely different emotions. Okay? Two people can experience the exact same situation and feel completely different emotions. And recently, I saw this. 2 different people, same cancer diagnosis. And one of the worst things you can get. 2 completely different emotions. One person, my life is over. I'm fucked. It's just the end of the world. It's the worst thing possible. And he is correct. It can be, right? The second person the second person interpreted as one of the greatest things that could possibly happen to me, because now it gives me a greater perspective on what is important in my life. I was just doing things for the sake of doing things. I have had to really cull the shit that I thought was important, which is not that important. It has given me a much more important perspective on how important my family is, how valuable each moment is, and also it has really carved a spiritual aspect in my life. Both people are correct, and both people have virtually the same situation, but completely different emotions. And that is because we are extracting different meanings using the language that we tell ourselves in our mind, our internal language. And that meaning then changes our state, right? Kind of a long winded explanation, but I hope it makes sense. Where uh, the same sort of experience can hit two people, or you can have any experience, any input come in. Oh, this conversation is going to be so stressful. This is going to be so bad. I'm just feeling so nervous. I'm not going to get through this. Or the language that you tell yourself, and it's kind of like the focus, but the language you use in this situation, and this is more specific on the language, is well, you can either say this conversation is incredibly stressful, or this is the exact kind of conversation I've been waiting for to help me grow into the sick cunt that I want to be. Right? The same, it's the same, the same thing. It's the same situation. But your language and your wording and the meaning you're extracting from it, two completely different things and two completely different two things that have completely different impact on your state. Mad. Okay, where are we going next? Let me go back to my drawing page. I'm going to clear up another page here. Now, I want to try and showcase something else here. Okay, I've just drawn two arbitrary people here, and I'll explain who these people are and why I have drawn them. Now, I'll summarize the fact of how you can get, or how I can get into the right state for the right performance. And those three pillars were physiology, focus, and meaning. I just went 1, 3, and 3. Physiology, focus, and language, right? Physiology, focus, language. Move, change your focus to contribution, interpret things in a different meaning and language, and your state changes. Now, one of the things that I read in this book, and the book was called Alter Ego, and it was incredibly powerful. I read it many, many years ago, and I've used it ever since. And the premise of it is you can be this person here who kind of isn't that great at whatever the thing may be, right? In my case, I wanted to be really good at stand-up. Okay, and I was okay. I was all right. But I couldn't get to the level of Louis C.K., obviously, right? Much more experience and all of the above, right? I couldn't get there, right? But I could access some of the traits, some of the state, some of the energy, and some of the mannerisms, and also just the behaviors of the person, just mirror them as much, as closely as possible to transform myself into Louis C.K. So just become the identity of Louis C.K., who was one of my comedic inspirations at the time. And I wanted to transport into Louis C.K. as quickly as I could, not as quickly as I could, transport into Louis C.K., which could get me as quickly as I could into the state and the the mannerisms, energy, traits that he had that made him so good. Now let me repeat that. I wanted to go from where I was, I wanted to go from where I was to mirroring Louis C.K. as much as I could, because I knew that is as close to success in that performance as I could get. So, I mean, I couldn't do a brain transplant and end up being him. I couldn't do that. But neurologically, I could adopt an identity, right? I wanted to step into this role of this established comedian with this kind of behavior, this kind of communication, and this command of the stage, and all of this stuff. And that's what a lot of athletes, a lot of great performers do. They adopt this identity. And I said this at the outset: Kobe Bryant with Black Mamba, and Eminem with Marshall Mathers, Slim Shady, and all of the other, people develop this identity that is separate to themselves, specifically for the role that they're trying to perform. Expert negotiators. And Chris Voss, I believe his name is, he said he used to do this. He would go into this calm state, which was an alternative identity to himself, and he would step into that identity prior to going into one of these negotiations with some kind of criminal or whoever. I assume that's his name. It was Chris Voss, but I remember reading it a while ago. But a lot of people do just that. They will go into this identity just before performance. They're not themselves. They're not their civilian self. They're switching to that superhero. So when I learned about the alter ego, I was like, can I build my own alter ego? Now, how do I go from who I am, who's not the best suited for this purpose, and can I build that alter ego to get to this hero self of mine, right? To become this hero. And what I realize works really, really well, and it's like a form of anchoring, is to try and label all the key things, the traits that I would like to have for the situation that I want. So in the case of stand-up, what are the traits that I would like to have? I would like to be calm. I would like to have command of the stage. I want to be unshakable. I want to be composed. I want to be dominant and whatever. And the list can go on. And what that helps me design is the performance traits and the kind of mindset I wanted to have. Okay? So those were the traits. These are the traits that would achieve what I wanted to be closer to my ideal performer. And I had that hero model. Now, if you don't have the hero model, it makes it a lot easier because you have a point of visualization. I want to be like Muhammad Ali, who is this composed, charismatic, very confident speaker. I want to be, I don't know, James Bond, who's this suave, romancer, charismatic, whatever it's always charismatic, whatever the guy, like whatever it is. I want to be a poised public speaker like Barack Obama. Whoever that model of the ideal role you want to step into, that makes it just so much easier because now you know who you are trying to pinpoint as the personality you want to step into. And then, I don't know, it helped me. Maybe it'd help you give that character a name, give that identity a name. In my case, that was transforming into Sikhan, right? You can call yourself the professor, the interviewer, the calm negotiator, the closer, the cleaner, The executor. Don't be the executor. That one's a bad one. Don't be that. No. We don't take that one away. But what it does is it helps me in my brain to separate the identity from your everyday identity. Now, this is a separate identity that I can access, that I want to build, that I want to make very, very clear in my mind. It is a compartment and an identity that is incredibly well defined and exactly what I want it to be, so I can step into it when I want. Okay. And the clearer it is, the more well defined it is, the more well practiced it is. And if it has its own name, like, people name their like imaginary friends. It's like that. Name your imaginary perfect friend who you are going to step into when required. And then it's incredibly clear what it is. And it gives you the chance of stepping into that with great clarity. You don't want any vague identification of that identity. Yep. Now, one thing this book mentioned, which made it a whole lot more powerful, and I've changed this over the years, and it was a physical trigger, something to have with you, and called a totem, and which is like assume it as an object that has superpowers, right? The moment you wear it, like you wear the watch, that specific watch that is linked to that identity. Go buy MVMT. No, that's not a sponsorship. I don't know why. Anyway, could be a watch, could be your ring. You know, you're a single guy. You put on the ring and you're like, wow, I'm the suave pickup agent, which is in contrast to what a ring would do. I don't know. I used to have a necklace where I would put it under the shirt. I'd wear it the moment I would go on stage to perform, and it was activating this clear identity of my Louis C.K. version of myself. And I would step into that. The moment I wore the necklace, I would step into that identity, and I could feel the difference, because every day I did stand up, I was trying to build that identity clearer, that energy, that state, that exact feeling and the traits I wanted in that character every single time. Now, and sorry, before I even get into what it is now, you can, I believe, use what NLP and a lot of these other techniques used to use is a very unique gesture. So it could be, you see a lot of people pressing their fingers together. And in one of my previous videos, I indicated that Andrew Tate does this thing, and it's like a physical trigger, an anchor. And it's usually either pressing your fingers together or touching your fingers in a certain way, or doing something that's not a usual behavior, but it's a specifically curated behavior to put you in that state. Like when I do this, I'm now incredibly focused. I have stepped into this new identity of the executor. I don't know why I bring back the fucking executor, but I have stepped into this identity of this stone cold killer. I'm sorry. We've just gone too far. I can't. The murderer. I've stepped into this identity of this person that is the person that I want to be able to access, this superhero version of myself, this hero version for this circumstance. So you can use your hands, your gestures, and whatever it is, and by building upon that every single time, every time you're accessing the identity, you do the thing, you put on the totem, you hold the object, you wear the watch. And like I said, in my case, it's now the microphone. So I do all my practice of getting into the right state, which I mentioned previously in this video, of physiology, focus, language, do all the motion, do all the breathing and all that kind of exercise to get into the right state. Then I want to access the identity of Sikant, which I step into the moment I hold the microphone. And I can feel it. The moment I hold the microphone, it's like, yes, it is it. This is it. This is a moment. The interviewer Sikant is here. And now I'm operating from that identity. And I can now enter the arena. Okay. And same for you. You want to, at that moment, the situation that you are entering into is refer to it, think of it as an arena. You are entering the arena. When you enter it, that alternate personality, that alternate identity that you've built is now active. The moment you step out of the arena, make sure there's a clear detachment that that is not you anymore, because it just solidifies it even further. Okay. So just to summarize, is it is a lot easier for me, has been for me, than having to kind of conjure up some unusual, strange, weird affirmations and other rah rah, you know, visualization of like success and all this crap that just never worked. And it was actually like a forced internal uh, pulling of your own emotions, which are just not, it doesn't feel in line with what you are trying to do. You kind of like really trying to push yourself to go somewhere where your body just rejects it. It's not comfortable. But having to mirror someone else, this mirror the traits, the behaviors of someone else, and making it very clear as this separate identity that you are stepping into, just made it so much easier and took a lot of that pressure away, because now you are not worried about judgment of yourself, because you're no longer yourself. You are this alternative identity, this alter ego of yourself. And that is what you're stepping into, because you have defined it clearly every single time to now jump into that personality, which gets you in the right state for you to get the best out of this situation every single time. And making it clear what your traits are of that identity, making it as granular as you can. And every single time going, these are the traits I want this identity to to be the foundations of this identity. Then giving it a clear name. So then in your mind, you're like, whoa, that is the name of this superhero. That is, as soon as I put on the mask, that's the superhero that I'm becoming. And then bang, using some sort of trigger or an anchor or a physical object or whatever, one of these, to get into that, just builds upon it every single time. And you are now borrowing confidence. You're borrowing the state of someone you idolize, someone that would really crush that situation. You're borrowing their traits, you're borrowing their behaviors, you're borrowing their confidence to give you the best outcome for yourself, for the situation that you typically feel that added improvement in state and confidence would deliver exceptional results. And that person would deliver exceptional results. You're borrowing that to get better results for yourself. So, yeah. So I hope I was just thinking if there's anything further to add, but I believe that's a lot to take on. It's a lot to take on. And it's a lot of thoughts in my head that I've tried to share part of the framework, and actually virtually most of the framework. I use this all the time to try and get myself in the absolute best position that I can be to perform at my best, which is within my control. To try and manufacture confidence as opposed to hoping it's going to arrive. It's going to drop on me from the sky and it's going to land on me and I'm just going to feel it doesn't happen. But if I can manufacture it and I can put a framework in, more often than not, it helps me achieve better outcomes and it helps you not waste your fucking time. Because a lot of the time, if you can be in a better state, you are getting the best use out of your inputs, the greatest outputs for the inputs that you put in. So I hope that's valuable. Comment, Tell me, message me, do whatever to tell me how you have used this in hopes that, again, that I have provided some contribution in this video. And then because it's been so valuable for me, that's why I'm like not finishing this video, because I'm thinking, how do I drive this message home? That hopefully it's been such a powerful confidence building framework for me that I hope you give it a try, because I know it can make a big impact to your performance. Take care. See you on the next one. Bye bye.